The story begins under a heavy, brooding sky as the last light of dusk bleeds into the horizon. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and an unnatural silence hangs over the landscape. The protagonist, a weary traveler, a grieving mourner, or perhaps a fugitive, finds themselves standing at the edge of the graveyard of lost souls, a place whispered about in hushed tones but rarely found by those who seek it. The graveyard is unlike any other burial ground. Its wrought iron gates, twisted with rust and time, stand slightly ajar as if inviting or daring the protagonist to enter. The tombstones within are weathered and cracked, their inscriptions long faded, leaving only ghostly impressions where names and dates once were. Some markers are nothing more than jagged stone stumps swallowed by the earth, while others lean at unnatural angles, as though something beneath the soil has tried to push them aside. A slow, creeping mist slithers between the graves, shifting like living tendrils, and the temperature drops sharply the moment the protagonist steps inside. The wind carries faint, fragmented sounds, whispers in no recognizable language, distant sobbing, or the hollow echo of a voice calling a name that can't quite be discerned. The protagonist's footsteps seem too loud, as if the graveyard resents the intrusion of the living. Despite the overwhelming sense of dread, something compels them forward. Perhaps it's the faint glow of a will-o'-the-wisp flickering between the graves, or the distant silhouette of a figure standing just beyond the next row of tombs, always vanishing when approached. Maybe it's the gnawing suspicion that they've been here before, in a dream or a half-remembered nightmare. As they venture deeper, the graveyard seems to shift around them. Paths twist in impossible ways, and landmarks disappear when glanced at a second time. The protagonist realizes with a growing chill that leaving may not be as simple as retracing their steps. And then, just as the last sliver of daylight fades, they hear it. A whisper, so close it could have come from their own shadow. You shouldn't have come back. The scene ends with the protagonist standing alone in the dark, the graveyard now fully awake around them, its lost souls stirring from their restless slumber. The mist thickens as the protagonist moves deeper into the graveyard of lost souls, their breath visible in the unnatural chill. The air hums with a low, mournful vibration, less a sound and more a feeling, like the distant echo of a funeral dirge played on strings long rotted away. The tombstones loom taller here, their jagged edges cutting into the gloom like broken teeth, and then movement, a flicker at the edge of vision. The protagonist turns, heart hammering, but there's nothing, only the mist. Then a whisper, "Do you remember me?" The voice is thin, fractured, as if spoken through cracked lips. This time, when the protagonist turns, the figure is there. Not quite solid, not quite transparent, a specter caught between worlds. Its form wavers like smoke, features blurred as though viewed through frosted glass. Yet its eyes, deep, hollow, and aching with sorrow, are painfully clear. The ghost does not attack. It does not scream. It only stares, its expression a silent plea. When it speaks again, its voice is the rustle of dead leaves, the creak of a coffin lid lifting after centuries. "I had a name once," it murmurs. I think it began with an A. Or was it E? The protagonist, despite their fear, feels a pang of sorrow. This is no vengeful spirit, no howling wraith, just a soul adrift, its identity worn away by time and neglect. "Why are you here?" the protagonist asks, their own voice sounding too loud in the graveyard's suffocating silence. The ghost tilts its head, as if the question is both familiar and impossible to answer. "I waited," it says at last, "for someone. for something. But they never came. And now I don't know what I'm waiting for. A gust of wind howls through the graves, and for a moment the mist parts, revealing dozens, perhaps hundreds, of other spectral figures standing motionless among the tombstones. Some weep silently, others simply stare at their own hands, as if trying to recall the flesh that once was there. All of them are fading, their edges fraying like old parchment. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the first ghost flickers, its form dissolving into the mist. Its last words linger like a curse and a lament. Don't forget us. And then the protagonist is alone again. But not truly alone, because the graveyard is watching. The wind dies suddenly, leaving the graveyard in a silence so complete it feels like the world itself is holding its breath. The mist coils tighter, pressing in around the protagonist as if guiding or herding them toward the heart of the burial ground. There, half swallowed by ivy and shadow, stands a mausoleum older than the surrounding graves. Its stone is blackened with age, its arched doorway gaping like the mouth of a beast. From within, a flicker of sickly green light pulses faintly. Something tells the protagonist to turn back, to run before the threshold is crossed, but the graveyard no longer lets them choose. The ground seems to shift beneath their feet, the path behind them now lost in the mist. There is only forward. One step, then another. The air grows heavier, thick with the scent of damp rot and something older, myrrh and wormwood, the spices of the dead. The mausoleum's door, though ancient, swings inward without a sound as they approach. Inside, the walls are lined with names, not carved, but written in something dark and flaking. Blood? Ink? The protagonist doesn't want to know. The chamber is small, dominated by a single sarcophagus, its lid cracked open, and sitting atop it, as if waiting for centuries, is the keeper. At first glance, they seem almost human, an old man wrapped in a tattered shroud, his skin like parchment stretched over bone. But then he moves, and the illusion shatters. His joints bend too smoothly, his fingers too long, his eyes, oh God, his eyes, pools of blackness that reflect nothing and yet see everything. "You're late," the keeper says, and his voice is the sound of earth falling on a coffin lid. The protagonist stammers, but the keeper raises a skeletal hand. "They always are." A dry chuckle, like the scuttle of beetle wings. Then he leans forward, and the temperature plummets. "You've met my guests, I see," he murmurs, gesturing to the graveyard beyond. "Poor, restless things, so eager to be remembered, so quick to be forgotten." His grin splits his face too wide. "But you're different. You see them. That means you belong here." The protagonist recoils, but the keeper's next words freeze them in place. "Or perhaps you already do." With a wave of his hand, the walls of the mausoleum dissolve into a swirling vision, a funeral, decades past, a coffin lowered into the earth, a name on the stone, their name. The protagonist's breath comes in ragged gasps. "No, that's impossible. I'm alive." The keeper's smile doesn't waver. "Are you?" Outside, the lost souls begin to wail. The keeper's words hang in the air like a death sentence, and before the protagonist can protest further, the walls of the mausoleum dissolve entirely. The world tilts, the ground lurches, and suddenly they are no longer standing in the crypt. They are falling through time itself, into the graveyard as it once was. The vision is vivid, visceral. The sky is a bruised purple, the air thick with the scent of burning candles and damp earth. A funeral procession moves slowly between the graves, their black garments fluttering like the wings of crows. At the center of it all, a coffin, And inside that coffin, the protagonist sees their own face. The shock is a physical blow, knocking the breath from their lungs. They try to scream, to deny what they're witnessing, but they have no voice here. They are only a ghost in this memory, forced to watch as mourners gather around the freshly dug grave. Some weep, others murmur prayers. One face stands out among them, a woman, her eyes red-rimmed, her hands clutching a locket that glints dully in the fading light. She looks directly at the protagonist, through them, and whispers a name. Their name. The memory shudders, fractures. Now the scene shifts, the graveyard at night, the mourners gone. Only the woman remains, kneeling before the grave, her fingers digging into the dirt like claws. She is speaking, but the words are lost beneath a sudden howl of wind. Then, from the darkness, another figure approaches. The keeper, younger, but no less terrible. He kneels beside her, offers her something small and glinting. A vial, a blade. The protagonist strains to see, but the vision is already twisting again. Now they are somewhere else entirely, a room they almost recognize. A bedroom, a study. The details slip like sand through their fingers. The woman is here, frantic, scribbling words onto yellowed parchment. The locket lies open on the table beside her, its portrait empty. She speaks to the air, to the shadows, to someone, or something, the protagonist cannot see. "Bring them back," she begs, "whatever the cost." A hand emerges from the darkness, the keeper's hand, and clasps hers. The deal is struck. The vision shatters like glass. The protagonist gasps, stumbling back into the present, into the mausoleum. The keeper watches them, his expression unreadable. "Do you understand now?" he asks softly. "You were never meant to leave." Outside, the wind carries the sound of a woman weeping. The mausoleum walls seem to press closer, the weight of centuries pressing down as the keeper's hollow gaze pins the protagonist in place. The visions of their forgotten death still linger behind their eyes. The coffin, the mourners, the desperate woman who refused to let go. Now, the keeper extends a skeletal hand, his fingers unnaturally long, the nails blackened like old blood. "She wanted you back," he murmurs, his voice like dry roots breaking through stone. But the dead do not return unchanged. A gust of wind slithers through the crypt, carrying whispers from the graveyard outside, pleas, sobs, the faint rustle of names half remembered. The keeper tilts his head, as if listening to voices the protagonist cannot hear. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, he reaches into the folds of his shroud and withdraws a small, tarnished key. "You wish to leave this place?" he asks, though his tone suggests he already knows the answer. "There is a way." The protagonist's pulse hammers, hope and dread twisting together. "How?" The keeper's smile is a knife slash in parchment skin. A trade, one soul for another. He gestures to the key in his palm. "This unlocks the oldest grave in this yard. The first soul buried here. Free them, and you may take their place, alive again, whole, forgotten by death." His black eyes gleam. "But you must bring another in their stead. Someone who remembers you. Someone who still grieves." The words settle like a burial shroud over the protagonist's shoulders. The meaning is clear. To live, they must condemn another to this hell. "Who?" The protagonist begins, but the keeper interrupts. "The woman in your memories, the one who called you back." His voice drops to a whisper. She owes a debt. Her grief broke the laws of life and death. Now, the balance must be restored. Outside, the wind rises to a wail. The protagonist staggers back, their mind reeling. The woman, mother, lover, sister. Her face flickers at the edges of their memory, just out of reach. To sacrifice her would be monstrous. But to stay here, trapped among the whispering dead, fading with each passing moment until even their name is gone. The keeper leans in, his breath like grave soil. Dawn approaches. Choose. The graveyard holds its breath. Dawn's first pale light bleeds through the mist, turning the world the color of old bone. The keeper's key lies heavy in the protagonist's hand, its metal biting cold against their skin. Somewhere beyond the crumbling mausoleum walls, the lost souls stir, their whispers rising to a chorus of pleading, weeping, begging not to be forgotten again. The woman's name teeters on the edge of memory. Who was she? A face flashes, warm hands, a lullaby hummed in the dark, the scent of lavender and grief. The key burns. The keeper watches, motionless. Time, he murmurs, is the first thing the dead lose. The protagonist steps forward, toward the oldest grave, its marker a crooked spire of black stone. The earth here is sunken, as if something beneath has been clawing upward for centuries. The key fits the rusted lock embedded in the tombstone. One turn. That's all it would take. But then, a whisper. Not from the graves, but from within. The faintest thread of a voice, frayed but unbroken. Let me go. The protagonist freezes. The voice is their own, or what's left of it. The realization crashes like a coffin lid slamming shut. They are the oldest soul here. The bargain was never about escape. It was about becoming the keeper. The key slips from their fingers, striking the earth with a sound like a dying breath. The graveyard exhales, a shuddering, rattling sigh that ripples through the mist. The keeper's smile stretches wider, his form flickering like a guttering candle. At last, he whispers, you remember? The truth unfolds like a burial shroud. The protagonist has stood here before, countless times, in countless lifetimes. The woman in their memories? She was the last keeper, their mother, their lover, their executioner. She had bargained for their return, yes, but the graveyard demanded a guardian in exchange, and so she trapped them here, thinking she was saving them. Now, the cycle repeats. The keeper's form dissolves into smoke, his voice the last thing to fade. The dead forget. The living remember, and the keeper always remembers. The mist coils around the protagonist's legs, heavy as chains. The lost souls press closer, their hollow eyes reflecting a terrible understanding. Somewhere beyond the gates, a new traveler stumbles through the fog, drawn by whispers they cannot explain. The protagonist turns to greet them. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.